Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. And welcome back to the podcast, everyone. And of course, it's Friday, and you know what that means. It is FOMO Friday. Every Friday, we love to dispense of your fear of missing out because you're not listening to propaganda media anymore, and you want to know what's going on around the world and around the country. And so, guess what? We bring you those stories of the week that you probably should know a little bit about. And from a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes this very first one. And of course, this is just huge. I mean, this is what everybody's been talking about, and that is Iran. Yes, we finally went ahead and struck Iran, knocking out Khomeini, their supreme leader. And there's a lot of people now that are asking, well, what now? Right? Well, they say it says that while the majority of the media ecosystem has spent the first few days of Operation Epic Fury bickering over a predicted forever war, the real danger to the Iranian people, the United States, and the greater Middle East is being ignored. As impressive as the United States and Israel's achievements is, we can't afford for it to be momentary. Can't let outside forces take the opportunity to reassert control in a chaotic situation. The smoking crater that was once the top of Tehran's Islamic regime, where they spent decades proudly chanting "Death to America," will not remain empty. There is not just one faction, one starry-eyed underclass yearning to breathe free that stands ready and organized to safely take the reins. In reality, monarchists, Marxists, ethnic minority groups, secular Republicans, and moderate, that is slightly less brutal, regime officials are already preparing to vie for control. The most popular of these factions in Western media is headed by the 65-year-old son of the deposed Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the heir to the former dynasty, Reza Pahlavi, the Chance Javid Shah, that means long live the Shah, have been heard in Iran. But surveys show support for him at only 31%. That's the biggest majority so far, but his support is far stronger outside the nation than inside of it. And he has no militia ready to back him. Obviously far more concerning is the MEK. It's a group that has rebranded itself as a democratic resistance force, but carries a troubling legacy of Marxist-Leninist ideology and violent extremism. Led by Mariam Rahavi from exile in Albania, the MEK was founded in the 1960s as an opposition to the Shah, engaging in bombings against both Iran and American targets before turning against the post-revolutionary Islamic Republic. Their alliance with Saddam Hussein during the Iran-Iraq War, which included attacks on their fellow Iranians, has cemented their reputation as traitors in the eyes of most citizens, eroding any diplomatic legitimacy. Today, through the National Council of Resistance of Iran, they claim underground networks and a vision for secular governance. But reports of cult-like practices such as enforced divorces, mandatory ideological indoctrination, and isolation from the outside world raises alarms about their true intentions. With minimal popular support inside Iran and a history of prioritizing power over principle, the MEK's attempt to fill the current vacuum could ignite fractional violence, impose a new form of authoritarian control masked as democracy, and destabilize the region further by alienating key allies and inviting prolonged internal conflict. Well, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo bewilderingly framed the MEK as Iran's diplomatic opposition, uh, ready to step up and lead. That's what he said. He was immediately mocked for his promoting the openly Marxist group as the path forward for Iranians. Yeah, Pompeo's not the brightest bulb in the whole box. China and Russia will most likely attempt to funnel resources and weapons to MEK, which could quickly result in an effort to massacre ethnic minorities like the Kurds and those types. This is the ethnic group that the Trump administration will most likely support, though, should Iran begin to balkanize. Over the past year, Iran has struggled immensely with the Kurds along its western border with Iraq, and one of the factions inside the collapsing Iran. This is the only one other than the regime itself that has the force of arms. So, I mean, if you look around, there's a lot of different groups, but none of them really have a militia or any way to take control, other than obviously the reigning regime and the Kurds, which, by the way, make up about 10% of that country, and have experienced really genocidal type forces from the regime. With their history of bitter treatment by Tehran and their relationship with the United States and Israel, the Kurds would be likely to split away. It's unclear if the Konzestani, I guess is how you pronounce that. They're Arabs. They're the native Arab ethnic group inhabiting Iran's southwestern province. But would they temporarily ally with the Kurds to aid in this, or if Kuwait might assist the neighboring rebels? But the Trump administration is already in talks over potentially arming or training the Kurds, per the Wall Street Journal. Now, while the Iranian regime's standing orders for provisional leaders are to govern and defend pseudo-independently for the foreseeable future, Tehran cannot deploy reinforcements to fight the Khuzestani Arabs and Kurds effectively. So it's unclear whether the Balak separatists, it's a Sunni native ethnic group that primarily inhabits Iran's southeastern Sistan and Balochistan province. But they say, such as Jaish-e-Ali would be able to seek resources in the east, bordering Afghanistan, as the Pakistani-Afghan war is currently stealing attention and resources. And so the only other likely possibility is another kind of a collaborationist council or parliament, and a new regime blending some of the rebels and the representatives of dissident groups with former Islamic Republic officials. And as we've seen in Syria and other recent, go along to get along regimes, these often trade birthright for a bit of stew and act as satellite states for Russia and China, really. Kurdish groups, the MEK and the regime, hold roughly all of the firearms in the country. Rest assured that bad actors will funnel arms to whichever group is willing to take orders and give them exclusive access to Iran's oil and the Strait of Hormuz, of course. The narrow transit checkpoint through which 20%, the Strait of Hormuz, sees 20% of the world's entire petroleum supply, flows right through that strait. The greatest danger is that outside powers will flood arms to those who have no interest in a non-authoritarian form of government, stealing the gift of victory from the United States and Israel to the Iranian people. So there's a lot of people that I've seen on the liberal side of things that have said, well, they weren't really all that much of a threat, or whatever, that kind of thing. Well, an Iranian Ayatollah on Thursday called for the shedding of Trump's blood in a message broadcast on Iranian state television. Said, quote, "We are now on the verge of a great test, and we must be careful to fully preserve this unity, to fully preserve this alliance." This is what Ayatollah Adollah Advadi Amali in his message said, going to call for the shedding of Zionist blood, the shedding of Trump's blood. Invoking the imam of the time, Amali said, "Fight the oppressive America. His blood is on my shoulders." So, yeah, I mean, you cannot say that this wasn't something that we had to do, something that we should do. It was really interesting. Again, you can go back this week. We did an entire podcast on this, but it's really interesting to me that if you look back, just ignoring the fact that that there is, just instance after instance after instance of where all that Iran was death to America and death to Israel, right? I mean, that was practically their their chant at every instance that they could. But if you really look back at their actions, it proves that they mean what they say, and they meant what they say, I guess, maybe in some ways. If you go back 49 years, in the last 49 years, Iran has been responsible for over 1,000 American deaths. And so to say that, we shouldn't have done this is just ludicrous in my estimation. But there was other news that came out this week. In fact, just yesterday, this came out. President Donald Trump fired Homeland Security Kristi Noem on Thursday after she found herself at the center of multiple scandals. Quote, "I am pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security, or DHS, of course, effective March 31st of 2026. This is what Trump wrote on Truth Social account. Quote, "The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of Americans. Our new secretary initiative in the Western Hemisphere, we are announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland," is what he added. And Noem thanked Trump in a post on X, saying that Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth are incredible leaders, and that she looks forward to working with them closely to dismantle cartels that have poured drugs into our nation and killed our children and grandchildren. Now, Trump announced that Oklahoma Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen will replace Noem, as we said, in saying that, quote, "Serving 10 years in the United States House of Representatives and 3 in the Senate, Mark Wayne has done a tremendous job representing the wonderful people of Oklahoma." He went on to say that as the only Native American in the Senate, Mark Wayne is a fantastic advocate for our incredible tribal communities. Mark Wayne will work tirelessly to keep our border secure, stop migrant crime, murders, and other criminals from illegally entering our country, end the scourge of illegal drugs, and make America safe again. Mark Wayne will make a spectacular Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Mullen called the announcement humbling and added that it actually happened really quick. so so we'll a little bit of a shakeup there. We'll see how this affects. I know with when it comes to Kristi Noem, she's had a few setbacks and some things that obviously happened with ice and some other things that she probably should have handled better. And there was some infighting as far as how things should proceed. And so yeah, we'll see how if this doesn't calm some of that down. Well, some good news came out of Texas. Psychologists, counselors, and social workers in Texas can be penalized, just like doctors now, for helping facilitate children's sex changes, according to an opinion clarifying the state's ban on sex rejecting interventions. The Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council, that's the TBHEC, that doesn't flow off the tongue, but anyway, they asked Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton if mental health providers met the criteria of healthcare providers described in the state's child sex rejection ban. That's the SB 14 there, suggesting that care provided by mental health professionals fell outside the outlaw interventions. So in other words, hey, if we're not cutting off breasts of kids, of girls and things like this, and we can help them change their sex mentally, right? Well, here's the quote. The agency respectfully seeks clarification as to how such providers are impacted by SB 14, given that the prohibited activities and services are exclusively medical in nature and fall outside the scope of practice for mental health professionals. This is what the council wrote back in July of last year in a letter. Quote, any radical facilitating the transitioning of our kids is committing child abuse. The law is clear that these radical procedures are illegal, and in no world should Texans' tax dollars be used to permanently harm children. This is what Paxton told the Daily Wire. He also said that this opinion should send a clear warning that there will be consequences for any medical professionals, whether a doctor or a therapist, who is illegally transitioning Texas kids. Now, the TBHEC helps regulate and uphold professional standards within the state's behavioral health and social services professions. Paxton unequivocally said mental health professionals fell within the criteria of the ban in an opinion that was published on February 27th of this year. The unambiguous definition of healthcare provider does not require a prescription pad or scalpel, is what Paxton stated in the opinion. SB 14 codifies more than a prohibition on providing certain surgeries and prescriptions. Paxton further clarified that Texas' ban on child sex rejection forbids the use of public money to fund any individual and organization that provides or facilitates the gender transition of minors. And so, yeah, this is good news, obviously, and it's something that should be really something that all states do. Of course, that's not the case. Texas has taken a really good step here to facilitate this, but yeah, there's, as they put it, no world where we should be cutting off the breasts or anything else of our kids in order to pretend like they're changing their sex or something like this, right? I like one of the quotes here. It said, the court is examining whether the regulated practice on mental health counseling is conduct or speech, is what the TBHEC wrote. Circuit courts are split, as the 3rd and the 11th courts treat mental health counseling as speech and not conduct, while the 9th and the 10th courts treat it as conduct and not speech. So given the significance of the question before the court, which may have far-reaching implications, this case may be something you would want to consider in your opinion. So obviously this is probably going to the Supreme Court. Obviously, there's contradicting cases here and judgments, depending on the courts that it went to. However, Paxson wrote in his office generally did not comment on pending litigation and would offer no speculation on the scope of the court's eventual holding. And so, he's obviously thinking it's probably going to go to the Supreme Court as well, but he can't come right out and say that, obviously. Many insurance companies and surgeons require a recent mental health assessment and surgery recommendation letter in order to move forward with sex-rejecting surgeries. The quality and clinical practice surrounding these assessments were actually heavily criticized in the Department of Health and Human Services 2025 report on the treatment of gender dysphoria. We covered that here on the podcast. That basically you could just call up a phone number and they get it and say, "Hey, I think I'm in the wrong body," and they'd be go, "Oh, okay, great. We'll recommend you then for a sex change." Lior Sapir, PhD, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and co-author of the HHS report, explained how gender clinician assessments often focus on achieving teens' sex rejection goals rather than examining their gender dysphoria. Gender clinicians have abandoned, this is a quote, the assessment model pioneered by the Dutch and replaced it with the readiness assessment designed to help kids clarify and pursue their embodiment goals. This is what they told the Daily Wire. Now, they also said, importantly, gender clinicians feeling acknowledged that these goals can shift, with some claiming that this is not a failure of treatment, but rather part of a teen's gender journey. Yeah, that doesn't sound woke. And increasingly, the gender-focused specialists in the mental health field have come to view assessment in the traditional sense as a form of harmful gatekeeping or even conversion therapy. Don't you love the wonderful names that we put on mutilating children's bodies? Mental health assessments performed by gender clinicians have recently been scrutinized in the detransitioners lawsuits. Again, we've covered that here on the podcast as well. It's wonderful that we're seeing these detransitioners actually winning cases now. And that in itself, to be honest with you, that in itself, yeah, and I said at the time when this first came down, the cases that they are winning, these detransitioners are winning, will be the biggest deterrent for some of these universities and hospitals and things from doing these type of surgeries. Fox Varian, a female detransitioner, successfully sued her psychologist and surgeon and was awarded $2 million for harm caused by a double mastectomy she received at the age of 16. Psychologist Dr. Kenneth Enhorn recommended and pressured Vivarian's mother to sign off on the surgery, saying that the gender-confused teen would commit suicide without it. And according to reporting from independent journalist Benjamin Ryan of the Free Press, they acknowledged that this was the case. Now, arguments in the case centered around a letter sent by Enhorn to Vivian's surgeon recommending she receive the double mastectomy, which their legal team argued was inaccurate and improper, according to reporting from the Epoch Times. Soren Aldako, who is a woman who struggled with gender confusion throughout her adolescence and underwent a double mastectomy at 19, that she later regretted, of course, sued her mental health providers, alleging they neglectedly wrote a surgeon recommendation that granted her access to the mastectomy, is what the court documents show. So, again, we're seeing more and more of these cases that are actually they're winning. These detransitioners are winning, and so this has definitely slowed down that industry because it was just going full bore, all for the simple fact of money. There's a lot of money in these sex changes. So, well, wanted to bring to you this. As you know, I'm not celebrity guy, but I know a lot of you have asked for some stories that have a little more to do, well, a little less with politics and a little more with celebrities. So I try to throw this one in there, and I don't know if I care as far as this story goes, but you might. Pop star Britney Spears was arrested over the Thursday evening in Ventura County, California, on suspicion of driving under the influence, according to multiple media reports. Actually, this was Wednesday night. The 44-year-old recording artist was stopped by the California Highway Patrol around 9:30 p.m. and booked shortly after 3 a.m. On Thursday, as per CNN. Authorities reportedly listed the incident as a cite and release, meaning that Spears was let go without bail pending a court appearance. Additional details were not immediately available. But yeah, she's not everything. Not the as they like to say, the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top floor. When it comes to this one, that doesn't seem like. And her family is trying to get her some help. And we'll see how that all goes. It's kind of a sad situation in many ways. And her father did have, conservatorship of her finances. But of course, that was taken away in November of 2021, following a fan-led Free Britney movement. Kind of interesting that, it could be entirely possible that would be the death of her, but we'll see. So let's end. A lot of times I like to end on a kind of a more lighter, funny note. I don't know if I can do that this week. There is a story I just don't want to miss out on covering for you, and I don't know exactly how to think about it. So I want to give it to you, and then you can tell me what we should probably think of this. So, a father accused of killing the man who allegedly sexually abused his teenage daughter has won the sheriff's race in Arkansas. Yeah, kind of weird, right? Aaron Spencer, he's 37. He earned close to 54% of the vote on Tuesday in the Republican primary of Lonoke County Sheriff. Per the New York Times, he will go on to face Democratic primary winner Brian Mitchell Sr. in the fall general election. He says, I'm incredibly grateful to the people of Lonoke County for placing their trust in me. Thank you to everyone who supported this campaign, worked hard, and showed up to vote. This is an important step forward, but we still have one more election ahead. I look forward to continuing this conversation with the people of Lonoke County as we work toward building a safer, stronger Lonoke County. Well, in October of 2024, Spencer allegedly shot and killed Michael Falsler, who was 67 at the time, after claiming to find him and his then 14-year-old daughter. Falsler was out on a bond and facing 43 criminal charges in connection with the teen, including sexual assault. And at the time of his murder, this was the case. He says, I believe that I did what any good father would do in that situation that I was put in, is what Spencer said. He touted his actions as being his reason for running for the GOP primary, actually. He says, I'm the father who acted to protect his daughter when the system failed. And he says, and though my own fight for justice, and through my own fight for justice, I have seen firsthand the failures in law enforcement and in our circuit court. I refuse to stand by while others face these same failures. Spencer was charged with second-degree murder and pleaded not guilty, as per CNN. The trial was postponed from January and will be rescheduled following a hearing later this month. If found guilty, he will not be able to serve as sheriff, though. When the public heard about Spencer's arrest, more than $100,000 reportedly poured into a GoFundMe account for the legal expenses. However, the GoFundMe platform reportedly pulled the fundraiser without explanation. And so they said that Lonoke County sent a clear message last night, is what the sheriff said, and we're just getting started. Spencer said, I'm running to restore accountability and integrity to the sheriff's office, and the people of this county just showed that they want the same thing. So again, I don't know what to really think of this on kind of multiple different levels. And I would love to hear what you think of that. Of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. Thank you very much for listening.
This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.